Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for using my creator code whenever you purchase any Sims 4 DLC on the EA app or thesims.com. I receive a 5% commission each time you use my code, which means you're directly supporting me as a creator. I know there are a lot of codes floating around out there, so I am very grateful that you've chosen me to support in this way. Thank you so much. Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And this one is special for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're building again for the Not So Berry Challenge. We're building for the Rose generation. But I would like to say almost more importantly, because this is a milestone for me, okay? Let me celebrate myself here a little bit. I have never built a penthouse before in my entire life. Never have I built a penthouse in The Sims 4. Never done it. It's been so intimidating. I never know how to lay out the lot. Like, I don't know what to do. It's just very overwhelming for me. And I finally built one. And we're in Ciudad, Enamorada as well, because let's dive right into the Rose generation. I'm not making any promises that I'm going to do it for the entire challenge. It's a 10 generation legacy challenge. And thus far I've done one for the Mint generation, which is the first one. Rose Gen is number 2, and I am currently conceptualizing, or I'm close to finishing, depending on when you're seeing this, for the Yellow generation, which is Gen 3. I have an idea for that one that I'm working on, and I think it's going to work out great. So we'll see, fingers crossed. But for the Rose Gen, the traits are hot-headed, snob, and romantic. And the aspiration is a serial romantic. The career is politician. So I asked you all on the posts tab on YouTube, which again, I will say is silly, used to be the community tab, whatever. I asked where you think the Rose Gen should live, and a lot of people did say San Myshuno, which makes perfect sense, because for the politician career, it is primarily, I guess, located, like a lot of the things, if you were to do the work from home assignments, a lot of those things are located in San Myshuno, so there's convenience with actually living there if you're in that career. But now that we have Love Struck, because this, for those of you who don't know, this challenge has been around since I think 2017. It was created by Lil Simsy, so it's been around for a long time now in the Sims lifespan, and we have, of course, tons of different packs and things to kind of play around with. And I thought that since we have Love Struck, and Ciudad Enamorada is basically the city of love, this would be a great place for the Sim to be. I more so centered this build on the aspiration compared to Mint Gen, which I really centered on the career. And I can say that because the scientist career isn't designated to a specific world. It looks like an extension of Oasis Springs when you go to the lab. But I built in Strangerville because I thought it fit. But yes, we are building a penthouse for the first time, and I am actually so proud as to how this came out. I was looking at so many pictures on Pinterest. I even saw some incredible, and I mean absolutely incredible, penthouse builds on Pinterest as well in The Sims 4. And I essentially tried to make my own amalgamation of all the things I was seeing. So this isn't based on like a single Pinterest picture. This absolutely is not based on a single individual's build either, because if I did that, I would be crediting somebody for sure. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the strategy of just putting a bunch of boxes together and see what happens. And I knew that I wanted at least one spot where there would be kind of like this big, it's not really a skylight, I suppose. This is a skylight, technically. On screen right now is a skylight, but where that roof piece is, the glass roof, that actually overlooks the kitchen, I think it is. Like, I just wanted there to be a lot of space. I wanted there to be a lot of balconies. And since the Sim has the serial romantic aspiration, I needed a hot tub. I needed a hot tub ASAP. And I put one upstairs on this second story balcony. It was perfect. It was perfect. I just love how this came out. I do end up changing the brick, because this is the brick from the Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack, but I changed it to a terracotta tile that came with Love Struck because it softened the color a little bit more. Like, I love this brick. It's one of my favorite bricks now in game, and this swatch in particular is a nice deep red, and I thought, yes, that's perfect for the Rose Gen. Let's do it. But the terracotta tile that I end up picking is almost a little bit more pinky than it is red, and I think it tied nicely with the flowers. The climbing begonia, whatever the heck it's called. I don't remember what it's called. The climbing plant from Jungle Adventure. Don't correct me in the comments because I'm still going to read it wrong, you know? I forget what it's called. Anyway, but now we're working on the interior. So the first room we do work on is the kitchen because I knew that's where I wanted it to be. Now the challenge with this was laying out the required components for a penthouse. You need an elevator, a trash chute, and a mailbox. And the floor plan in general was really hard because I wanted it to look perfect on the exterior. I was so focused, and it made it really challenging to do the floor plan in here. It really did. And this is actually only a 1 bedroom, 2 bathroom. And I will explain why. I mentioned this in my mint build as well. So for the Rose generation, you are basically so focused on your career. You don't have time for relationships. You obviously jump from partner to partner with that serial romantic aspiration. And the kicker here is that you have only 1 child and you don't marry until you're an elder. So the way that I was kind of thinking about this, at least how I would play it, is I would have my sim maybe accidentally have a child at some point, right? Like it wasn't intentional. They accidentally got pregnant or got someone pregnant, right? And suddenly there's the yellow gen, there's Gen 3. And therefore, when I was actually building this penthouse and trying to figure out the floor plan, I didn't make a second bedroom because in my head, if I were playing out that story, the sim did not intend on becoming a parent at that time. Maybe not ever, if you think about it. I don't know. If you look at the yellow gen, it says that they never had a close relationship with their parents and they spent a majority of their time alone in their room, obsessing over space. So it kind of makes sense. Like I built this penthouse for a single sim who is essentially non-committal, even though that's not a required trait for that gen. Like they are non-committal. They don't have time for relationships. They're very, very career focused. They're a politician. You could apply whatever stereotypes you want to that, but children were not part of the game plan. And having the yellow gen heir was a complete and total surprise. And they didn't buy or rent a property that would accommodate a growing family. This penthouse is for them and their many partners, and that's it. So that is why I didn't do it. However, what I did do is upstairs, it's very open, and what you could do is you could change this. So there's like a bedroom space right when you go upstairs it's kind of a loft, but not really. Right when you go upstairs is the bedroom. There's a bathroom that's closed off, but then where the big roof kind of skylight is there, I added these big floor to ceiling windows. It's so pretty. It lets in so much light, but there's like this office space. So I think in theory, what you could do is you could wall that off completely and make it into a bedroom. Maybe you could switch where the primary bedroom is, or you could divvy up the second floor even more if you wanted to. What I'm trying to say is that there is room for you to make adjustments to accommodate for the introduction of the yellow gen heir. But I thought that a majority of the gameplay, you'd be playing with just the single sim, or at least I would, and you'd be playing out the serial romantic aspiration more than anything. So that was my logic, and I figured I would go ahead and just get that out there now as I struggle like hell to decorate this kitchen because I didn't want it to be super overcluttered, and compared to the mint generation build that I did, this one is extremely on brand color-wise. And that is because, I'll kind of explain this like I did in the last one, a lot of the objects that we have in game for mint did not fit the aesthetic whatsoever that I was going for because I built in Strangerville. I feel like a lot of objects from things like Nifty Knitting and Cats and Dogs would work great, but those are it's a very youthful color, and a lot of the objects that we have that are in that color or contain that color in some capacity are very youthful, and they are very like cutesy aesthetic, and that's not what I was going for. However, for this build, I knew we had a lot of things that were red that I could work with that were somewhat industrial. It's kind of interesting. I'm realizing this too, and hopefully it doesn't feel like repetitive or lazy, but I did the mint build, the rose build here, and then like I said, I mentioned the yellow build that I'm doing. They all have very industrial components, and that wasn't intentional. Like this one has some more contemporary touches, I would say. Like the kitchen's a little bit industrial, though the countertops, oh, I was so excited to use those, by the way. Those are from the Perfect Patio stuff pack. There aren't matching cabinets, which infuriated me, but I have not used those counters I don't know if I've ever used them. I was so excited to use them. But then like in the dining room here, you do have this contemporary table. We have a more contemporary or traditional bar. But then we do have the industrial elements of like the windows, and the entire interior is brick. And we have like the metal staircase. There's kind of a nice mix because I wanted this to be a little bit more sophisticated because of the sim that lives here based on their aspiration, as well as their career. Like their career, they're a politician. Look, they're making a lot of money doing minimal work, okay? That's just my opinion. But I just thought it would be very fitting, especially for someone who is very, very, very successful, but single, right? They're very successful. They're very, very single. And when they bring romantic partners back to their place, they impress the heck out of them, right? With this big, beautiful, luxurious love pad penthouse. Also, the dining room, that's what we just furnished, the dining room. And then here's going to be kind of like a sitting room. I'm not even going to call it a living room. This build doesn't really have one. It is really just more of a sitting room because I made so many balconies and there's so many windows and doors. Like I couldn't divvy up the space well enough to create like this big living room. And I also don't think that a single sim would have like this big, giant family room, right? Because it would accommodate a family and like a TV, like all that kind of stuff. I was like, no, they get a little like, it's on a conversation pit truly, but like they get this little conversation space where maybe they kind of like initially chat after a meal, then they can go upstairs, bring their drinks, and just kind of enjoy their romantic partners. That was my thought. Look, the sim that lives here, there's nothing wrong. They have a lot of romantic partners, and that's that. Now here in this balcony, I do add a vertical planter, actually. I thought that was just kind of nice to add another activity to this build. And then just a couple of chairs where your sim can maybe sit out there with their coffee in the morning and lord over the city, basically, because they think they're a high and mighty politician. I don't know why I'm so focused on this. I clearly don't think highly of politicians. I'm not trying to open any kind of discourse, but all I'm trying to say is this sim, I feel like this sim, if we had the trait at the time, would be like non-committal and self-absorbed as well. I really get that feeling. I feel like they'd be very self-absorbed. I think that came with, well, actually, maybe we did have that at the time. I can't recall. I think it came with, did it come with Get Famous? I don't know. I lose track of where some of the traits came from at this point. But anyway, I would probably like, if I were to update this gen in particular, I would update those kinds of traits. Anyway, we're working on the bedroom now. Like I said, the bedroom, big open right when you walk upstairs. There's another balcony that leads to the hot tub because, of course, I added a walk-in closet because I was also trying to think of adding a bunch of different places for the sim to woohoo aside from just the bed. I thought that would be fun. It would be a fun component of who they are. And I added this painting from Lovestruck. Look, it's my favorite swatch, and it's my favorite swatch because I think it looks like Jose Pedro Balmaceda Pascal. And I love him. So that's that. I didn't really know what to do with this space over here, though. I started with just like 2 armchairs. And that's when I was trying to, actually, originally I was going to make this more of like a living or family room over there with the floor to ceiling windows, but I turned it into an office. I temporarily tried to make this a little like office nook as well, because for the politician career, when you do work from home, I believe there are some things to do in the computer, though a lot of it is potentially active in San Myshuno, like I mentioned earlier, but they need an office space. They do. And I decided to use the refined living room kit and make a little office here, like I said, in this space. It gets so much light. It's so pretty. I filled up all of those little empty spaces with, I think, every single piece of like decoration or like all the sculptures that we got with the refined living room kit. And it looks so nice in my opinion. I really liked it. And then I also bring the 2 chairs over there. So maybe they actually have meetings like with their campaign team or other politicians. I don't know anything. And I also add, I think it's a career reward item, but I just don't remember what career. I think it's the business career because it's a base game item. And it's like a scrolling bar of like updates from stocks. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're going to see it in a second. I immediately thought of it. That thing right there. I thought it was perfect. And then I added a big widescreen TV and just some like low cabinets that matched the ones that are in the kitchen. So that's the only TV in the house. I also add a bunch of wall speakers on the exterior, which might be dangerous because I think if you have seasons, the rain will actually break those, which is kind of a bummer. I hate when that happens. But I did it because I figured that this sim would be playing those sexy tunes out by the hot tub or out by the pool or whatever the case is. That would be nice. I also added that big floor to ceiling mirror from Lovestruck over in this corner. And I think what I do is I add this big lounge from, I think it was the Secret Sanctuary kit, but I can't remember. This one right here is beautiful. And I keep the costume trunk somewhere because it's just very applicable now. So this is why, like, now that we have Lovestruck, I was like, I know a lot of people said build in San Myshuno because of the career, but then a lot of people were also saying Ciudad and Enamorada, and I agreed primarily with that, and that's what I was hoping people were gonna pick. So I had to go full Lovestruck with it, okay? I couldn't help myself. But since it's a penthouse, I mean, I think this is a 20 by 20 lot. You could still put it on one of the penthouse lots in San Myshuno if that's what you wanted, you know, doesn't matter. And now outside, I do add an additional bar, though I did struggle with the layout a little bit. I was gonna put one up in the bedroom, and then I was like, no, it's not gonna fit, don't do it. I also added another seating area, I think to the right behind the lounge chairs. There's a small dining table and a few bar stools at the bar here, right out front. I was trying to put it over here, but it just was not gonna work. And I think over there, I just put the same like 2 chairs that I put on the other balcony on this same story. I think I did. I don't know, there's a lot going on here, but we're pretty much at the end of the build here. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.